begin today to look at the phrase in the Apostles' Creed that says, He ascended into heaven and He sits at the right hand of God the Father Almighty. What is so special about this phrase? Well, most of us don't spend much time thinking about the ascension of Jesus. We celebrate His birth, we're awed at His death and what He accomplished, we rejoice in the resurrection, but we really don't focus on His ascension into heaven. He just went to heaven. After 40 days of meeting with people and deeply instructing His disciples from the Scriptures, He tells them not to leave Jerusalem until they receive power from on high, and then He ascends into heaven. He just floats away. Acts chapter 1 verse 9 says, And after He said this, He was taken up before their very eyes, and a cloud hid them from their sight. Now listen carefully. He didn't just vanish. He did vanish once. He was with two people on the road to Emmaus, and He had dinner with them, and when He broke bread, they noticed who He was, and He vanished. They watched Him, the disciples watched Him ascend until they couldn't see Him anymore. They watched Him go up physically. They needed to see this. He told them earlier that He was going to go to His Father. Matter of fact, He said that 7 times. And He just vanished. If He had just vanished, they might have wondered, where'd He go? But they watched Him ascend into heaven. They knew He was back in heaven with His Father. They keep looking until an angel comes and tells them that this same Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven will come back in the same way that you've seen Him go into heaven. And Luke says, and they worshipped Him and then returned to Jerusalem. Now follow with me. There was no other way to react but to worship. They had been taught for 40 days. They had their degrees, if you want to call it. They were done. They understood the Old Testament Scriptures. They understood the references to Jesus being the Messiah from the law of Moses and from the prophets and from the Psalms. They understood who Jesus is. They understood what He did. They understood why He had suffered and died and was buried and why He rose. They knew what salvation was offering. They knew His resurrection. They were assured of their own resurrection. And they worshiped Him. Now please don't miss that. These Jewish men had worshiped one God their entire life. They had worshiped the God and God alone. And on the Ascension Day, they worshiped who? Jesus. They were saying Jesus is their God. And they knew it. That Jesus was God in the flesh. The person He had spent 3 years with was God. And they returned to Jerusalem after worshiping to wait for the power that they would need to take the good news to all the nations and turn the world upside down. They waited for God to send His Spirit to come and live in them.